The Cursed Book, a tale of inescapable horror. You won't believe me, I know that. No one ever does. And even if you do, if you can somehow understand the horror I'm about to describe, there's nothing you can do to escape it. Because once you know, once you feel the pull of it, it will come for you. I didn't believe it either until it was too late. It all started with the book. I should have walked past it. I should have left the secondhand store and never even glanced in its direction. But there it was, tucked away in the back corner, just out of sight. A dusty, leather-bound thing with no title, just a strange, twisting symbol that seemed to crawl across its cover when I looked at it. Something in the back of my mind, something primal, told me not to touch it. But I did. I felt it then, that strange chill that seemed to wrap around me, creeping into my bones. I remember thinking it was just the cool air of the shop, the kind of oppressive, musty cold you'd expect from a place that hadn't seen sunlight in decades. I remember the old man behind the counter watching me like a hawk. His eyes, so wide, so knowing, made me feel like he could see into the deepest parts of me. And when he spoke, his voice cracked like old wood. "Be careful with that one," he said, his words barely a whisper. "Some things should never be read." I laughed it off, the same way you might laugh when someone warns you about stepping on cracks in the sidewalk. But there was no joy in that laughter. Not really. Something had shifted in the air. Something dark. Something wrong. And yet, I couldn't walk away. I handed the man my money and without another word left. Back at home, I sat with the book on my desk. The room was dim, the only light coming from a lamp in the corner. I remember looking at it for a long time before I opened it, long enough for a bead of cold sweat to form on my forehead, long enough to feel that same chill creeping back, this time from inside my own chest. When I opened the first page, I felt a lurch in my stomach, like I'd just jumped from a great height. The symbols, they weren't just letters. They were alive, shifting before my eyes. They twisted and contorted in ways that shouldn't have been possible, crawling across the page like writhing insects. I couldn't make sense of them, but I could feel them. And then the voices. At first they were soft, low, murmuring in a language I couldn't understand, but somehow knew. The words, if they could even be called words, scraped against my mind like nails on a chalkboard. But they didn't just scrape. They tore at something inside me, something buried deep beneath all the noise of my daily life. It was as if the book knew my thoughts, my weaknesses, and it fed on them. I could hear it laughing as it opened those doors inside me I'd never wanted opened. I should have stopped reading then. I should have slammed the book shut and thrown it into the fire, burned it until it was nothing but ash. But I didn't. I couldn't. Something was pulling me in, something insidious, something ancient. It was like a drug. Every turn of the page, every new symbol that flickered and twisted in front of me was a fix. An unquenchable thirst I didn't know how to slake. The room grew colder. I could see my breath, thin and misty in the air. The shadows, they stretched. They seemed to move, as though they were alive, slithering across the walls and floor. The light from my lamp flickered, casting grotesque shapes around the room. I heard a noise behind me, a low growl. I froze, the book still open in my hands. The growl came again, louder this time, more guttural. And then I felt it, the cold breath against the back of my neck, a feeling so vile, so suffocating, that I almost collapsed. I turned around, nothing but empty space. But the air, it was thick, heavy with something wrong. I tried to close the book, but my hands, they wouldn't obey. It was as if the book had taken them, pulling them back to the pages against my will. I tried to scream, but no sound came. My throat was tight, constricted as though something was choking the very life out of me. Then the words on the page shifted. They bled. The ink, oh God, the ink, began to twist and warp until it was no longer readable. Instead, the pages filled with images, faces, demons, twisted, deformed, with eyes that burned with the intensity of the deepest hell. Their mouths stretched wide in smiles that were too wide, too jagged, like something stitched together from nightmares. And then I heard them. Voices, screams. At first they were distant, faint, as though they were coming from somewhere far below, deep beneath the earth. But then they grew louder. They became real. The demons, they were inside my head now, their voices crawling through my thoughts, twisting my memories, my dreams. They told me things, terrible things. They told me I was theirs now, that I would never leave. I tried to push the book away, but it was as if it had sunk into me, its pages filling my mind, wrapping themselves around my thoughts like cold iron chains. And then, that final page, the last one, the one I couldn't stop reading no matter how hard I tried, opened, and I felt them. I felt them coming. The shadows in the room darkened, became thicker, denser. The air turned foul, rancid like the smell of rot and decay. And then from the dark they emerged. Demons. Huge, towering creatures made of darkness and flame. Their eyes gleamed with fire, burning through the thick shadows, and their claws, sharp as razors, reached out for me, tearing at my skin, my flesh. One of them reached down with its twisted hand and touched the book. And that was it. That was when I felt my soul being ripped away. I screamed then, but no sound came. I tried to run to escape, but my body wouldn't obey. I was paralyzed. I was trapped. And then I was falling through endless darkness, through the pages of the book, through the cold, unfeeling void between worlds. I could hear them laughing, their voices echoing around me, taunting me, mocking me. "You dared to open it," they whispered. "Now you belong to us." I can feel it now. I'm no longer me. I'm something else. I'm bound to the book, bound to the pages, a part of the horror that lives between them. Every time the book is opened, I'm there, waiting, watching. And I know that it is only a matter of time before someone else finds it. Someone else, like I was, foolish enough to think they could control what lies within. So listen to me. If you ever find that book, if you ever see that strange twisting symbol, turn away, run. Don't make the same mistake I did. Because once it takes you, it will never let you go. And trust me, you don't want to know what happens next.